Okay, so this is a little bit new and different. I am actually filming this on my laptop, so I don't know how the quality is going to look, but I didn't feel like breaking out my tripod and doing a proper setup, so this is the background that you get today. I want to talk about something a little different than my most recent videos. And that would be that well, okay, here's the thing. I hadn't originally planned on making this video, but then I remembered that several years ago I had documented my journey to getting my bunion surgically taken care of, and that is to this day still my most and best performing video, so it's the most watched. Which is really surprising. I don't know why people are so interested in that one. I've included a link up here, so if you want to go and check that out. I was much younger then and a little bit less confident on camera. Not that I'm confident now, but you know what I mean. So the topic of today's video is I have a thyroid nodule. And so this all started several years ago when I noticed that I had a lump in my throat, and I had kind of had some odd symptoms in the years kind of leading up to that discovery, off and on, throughout most of my 20s actually, where I would have these periods of difficulty breathing and swallowing, that they would kind of come on intermittently, and they would last anywhere from a few days to a couple of weeks even. And back then it was annoying, a little inconvenient and kind of odd. And I had seen a few doctors for that at the time. One of them assumed that maybe I was asthmatic, and they prescribed me an inhaler, which naturally did not help the situation. So it was a few years ago when I discovered that I had a lump in my throat, and I didn't have health insurance at that time, so I didn't go see a doctor, even though I probably should have. It was a little distressing, but I just pushed it to the back of my mind and sort of ignored it. But in the last year or so, it's gotten bigger, and I started to have those symptoms of the difficulty breathing and swallowing, and I had more headaches and neck and shoulder tension, and there was more pain and swelling in my throat. And I started doing a little bit of research online, which I know is the last thing you're supposed to do, but when you don't have health insurance and you're concerned about a medical problem, you turn to WebMD. And WebMD basically told me that I had thyroid cancer, which I had kind of figured would be the case just based on what my symptoms were. So, you know, I'm reading through this list of symptoms for thyroid cancer, and I'm taking into account that my mom has a thyroid disease and my uncle has a thyroid disease, and they're on medications. And I have like a long family history of different types of cancer. So I was like, well, if it is thyroid cancer, I'm not too surprised. I also kind of took solace in the fact that it's said to be one of the slowest growing cancers. So if that was indeed the case, then I wasn't super worried about taking immediate medical action, I guess you could say, which again is terrible. So good news, I do currently have health insurance, and I can afford now to go and see a doctor. So I did. Back in January, actually, I made an appointment for a wellness check and kind of had my doctor, feel around and check it out. And she did think it was big enough to be concerning. So I was then referred to have an ultrasound, which I mean, they did note that it was pretty sizable, and that it was a little concerning that I perceived it to be getting bigger. The good news is it's not cancer. So I have a benign thyroid cyst, which means that it is a pocket of tissue that fills up with fluid. There's not really any definitive reason why people develop them, or how they grow or change throughout a person's life. So today I finally got to go and see an ENT specialist who took a look and kind of laid out my options for treatment, which were far less invasive than I was anticipating. So that was really awesome. And I was just really, really happy to finally get that appointment. So I am at the clinic currently about to see my doctor for my thyroid, and we'll see what my options are. Okay, so I'm all done with my appointment. They actually stuck a needle in my neck and drained the fluid. So hopefully they only have to do that once, but they might have to do it more often if it comes back. I'll talk a little bit more about it when I get home. So it went really well because it's a university hospital. There's always residents and students, medical students there, and my doctor today had one with her assisting, and I think it probably went a little bit smoother because there were two people doing this, but I had performed today, kind of very spur of the moment. I hadn't really anticipated this happening, but I had a fine needle aspiration. So that is where they go in and basically use a needle to pull all of the fluid out. And they also do this with diagnosing thyroid cysts or nodules to see if they're cancerous, if an ultrasound is inconclusive, which mine wasn't. But they are going to, of course, send all that fluid they pulled out to the lab and see what it is. But my doctor and I, we were pretty confident that, it wasn't going to turn up anything negative or malignant. So it didn't feel too painful. The lidocaine shot, which they kind of went in right here-ish, was the most painful part, because of course you get that stinging, burning sensation of the lidocaine, and I am resistant to most local anesthetics, which I told my doctor up front, so she gave me an extra dose, which I was thankful for because the first one didn't quite do it. And then basically they just stick a larger needle in with a vial on it, and then they just extract the fluid. And I had over 10 cc's of fluid extracted from my neck, which I guess surprised them because it was a lot bigger. The cyst was a lot bigger than the original ultrasound readings had indicated. So I don't know if in that time, in that few months span of time that it had grown, I don't know. And so she said that it was no surprise that I was able to feel it, in my throat pretty regularly. The results of the fine needle aspiration were pretty immediately felt. I mean, within just a few minutes, I could tell that pressure was gone. And when I swallow, you don't see a huge lump here anymore, which you used to. And now I regret not taking footage of that to properly show you what that would have looked like. I was always very self-conscious of it, so I tried to minimize it in photos and in video. So I'm used to wearing clothing that kind of covers up the lower portion of my neck because of that, but I don't have it there anymore because she pulled all that fluid out. It is likely that it will come back. For most patients, most thyroid cysts will fill up with fluid again, and I will have to have this process done repeatedly if necessary. However, if the results of what they pulled out come back as benign, or they don't find anything problematic in there, and I do this a second time, I will then be eligible for RFA, which is radio frequency ablation, I believe. And that is something that is a little bit more long-term as a solution. It's sort of the non-invasive treatment that they utilize now, as opposed to like a surgical removal of a thyroid cyst or nodule. So I will include a link to that procedure from, I think it's the University of Utah is the place that does it. So if I do become eligible for that in the future, if I ever need that, if fine needle aspiration doesn't do it for me, which it might, when I become eligible for that, I would have to fly out to Utah, which from Washington isn't that far, and it's, cool. I spend a week out in Utah and have an impromptu vacation. This would probably be at least a year, if not more, from now in needing to do that. So hopefully, with COVID and vaccines being pushed out more by that point, I would hope it would be safe to travel, and then I would not feel too weird about doing that. But yeah, okay, so I've been yammering on for like 10 minutes now. So I'll include some links to information about my thyroid situation, like what kind of cyst I was dealing with, and then the radiofrequency ablation, what a fine needle aspiration is, if anybody is curious, or if you have any questions about what my experience was like with a thyroid nodule, or any symptoms that I had, or what it was like going through the fine needle aspiration, just put those down in the comment section, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about my personal experience. If you have a thyroid issue like this of your own, I think it's pretty clear that your situation and your experience will be different from mine, because everybody's medical situation is different. But if I can help put you at ease or a little bit, or maybe just kind of give you an idea of what to expect, I'm happy to do that. So, okay, like I said, yammered on long enough. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.